Guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new, my name is Din and I'm going to show you how to prepare your ingredients, mix the spices and then cook the dish. Very simple method I'm going to use, so please follow the instructions carefully. So let's cook. Hi everyone, today we're going to cook a Lamb Vindaloo and these are the ingredients we have. Today I'm going to use a little bit of tomato paste. Normally I don't use tomato paste. We have methi leaves and we have a little bit of green pepper, some tomato, fresh tomato. I always prefer to use fresh tomato, but today I'm going to use a little bit of tomato paste and all the other spices. As you can see, you'll find all the ingredients in the description, so you can write everything down before you start to cook this dish. Meat Vindaloo is a very popular dish on Indian menus. You'll find it everywhere, and I enjoy a little bit of Vindaloo now and again. And so let's get our meat ready. I got the butcher to just slice it right through the bone so I can cut it to my size I require. I always like to cut my meat myself so that I can clean it up and throw bits of fat I don't want out, and then just chop it up the size I want. So this way I have control of the meat. So I would suggest just ask your butcher just to slice about 1 inch thick, and then you can cut it up the way you would like it. You can have it large pieces or small pieces, it's entirely up to you. Then get a couple of onions, chop it up fine. We're going to cook this in all in one pot basically, so it's like a traditional curry but Vindaloo heat, so you don't have to make a base gravy or anything like this. I always prefer to cook this way myself, so that I have a really rich tasting curry. As you can see, I'm using a grater to grate the garlic and ginger, which I find is really good. Instead of getting the old blender out, it saves washing. So just grate it, as you can see, and it comes out really well. And this method I use all the time, unless I'm making a batch of garlic and ginger paste, then I freeze it. Okay, now we've got the garlic and ginger paste. Cut up our little bit of green pepper. So in the saucepan, you want to put half a cup of oil. I always use the rapeseed oil, which I find is really good. You can use whatever oil you prefer, so it's entirely up to you. You can use ghee as well if you like, but I find this is more healthier version to use rapeseed oil. Now put in your spices. In here I have bay leaves, cinnamon stick and cardamom. I'm also going to put in a couple of cloves in this as well, and black cardamom to give it extra flavour. So what we're going to do is just kind of toss it a little bit in the hot oil and fry the spices first. There's the 2 pieces of cardamom, as I mentioned, and a black cardamom. There were 2 pieces of cloves, sorry, and black cardamom. Give that a good stir, then put in your onions. What we want to do is just stew the onions for about 10 minutes or so, just to stew it down before we add our meat. Put in your garlic and ginger, which we've grated, and 1 whole tomato I've used, and the green pepper. See, in Indian cooking, my mother never used tomato paste. I don't know where this tomato paste came from, but in India they don't usually use tomato paste or puree. They use fresh tomatoes. So I've always cooked with fresh tomatoes, so using tomato paste is not my thing. So you won't find in many recipes that I use any tomato paste. I always use fresh tomato. You put in about 1.5 teaspoons of salt goes in. So what we're trying to do is just fry the onions a little before we put our meat in, as you can see. This is a quick way to cook a meat vindaloo. You don't have to make the base gravy and so on. This is basically what someone would cook at home for their family on an evening meal, with maybe a lentil dish to go with it as well. So it'd be lentils and meat vindaloo and some rice, and that would be a meal in a typical Asian family home. They also would have a vegetable dish to go with it as well, and a taka dal as well. I remember when my mum used to cook, and we always used to have a fish dish, a meat dish, and a chicken and a dal, and a mixed vegetable as well. So you usually have a little bit of each one, and if there's leftover, we would eat that the following day with some more new dishes. So give this a good stir, as you can see, and just leave it for about 5 minutes or so on medium heat. We don't want to burn the onions. This is it, that's perfect. Then we're going to just add the meat in as well with this. So the onions are basically a little bit caramelized, as you can see. This will give it a nice rich depth as well in the sauce. This dish will probably take from start to finish about just over 1 hour, about 1 hour 20 minutes, I would say. So in the meantime, you can cook your rice, your dal, or whatever other dishes you want to cook. But this one you would put on first, because this one takes the longest. Keep taking any excess off the bottom so it doesn't stick. As you can see, the onions have nicely caramelized now, so this will give a nice depth and nice colour to our gravy. Then put in the meat. What we're going to do is just give it a good stir and cook it for just a few minutes before we add a little bit of water, and then we simmer process will start, where we would just cook it for another 35 to 40 minutes with the meat before we start adding any spices. There goes the tomato paste. You don't really need to add the tomato paste if you haven't got it. I had some from another recipe I did, so I didn't want to throw it away. I thought I'd use it up. That's the beauty of curry. You can add things to it to give it more flavour and so on. It doesn't have to always be the same recipe. You can add to it, add other things to it and so on. This is looking good now. I think when we used to sell meat vindaloo or beef vindaloo, we used to sell normally mutton, so this was more flavoursome meat we used to use, mutton. I prefer mutton to lamb, it's got more flavour. But as you can see, I've just put some water in, and with the water what we're going to do is just bring it all up to a boiling point. Then we're going to turn it down and put the lid on it for next 30 to 40 minutes for the meat to basically cook out. This is perfect. This is the way you want it to see bubbly. So what we're going to do is put it down to low at this stage, So my cooker goes up to number 9, so I'm putting this at number 3 or 4. Keep stirring every 10 minutes or so, 10-15 minutes, just to make sure it's not sticking. And also at the same time what you're doing, you're breaking down the onions as well to give a nice rich sauce. Yeah, this is looking nice. Just give it a good stir. This way you can keep an eye on it as well, just in case it burns or you've got the heat up high too much. Now, as you can see, the oil has appeared, and it's been good about 40 minutes now since we've been cooking. So we're going to now put the spices in. We're going to put in total 1 teaspoon of turmeric, 1 teaspoon of Kashmir chili, 1 teaspoon of hot chili. You can add a little bit more chili, hot chili, if you want it a little bit more hotter. It's entirely up to you. We added half a teaspoon of paprika and 3/4 teaspoon of cumin and 3/4 teaspoon of coriander. So what we're going to do now is basically kind of fry the spices in the oil to release all the flavours of the spices before we add any water to it. So keep on stirring at this stage. We want to break down those onions to give a nice smooth sauce. You'll find when I cook curries, a lot of my curries I cook this way. I find it much nicer sauce. You don't get little bits of onion in your sauce. Yeah, this is looking good. So what we're doing is just going to keep on stirring, and now we just add in the methi leaves as well, which brings out more flavour to this dish, and 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice. Yeah, just keep stirring it. Make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom. You want to do this process on a medium heat, not hot heat, medium, so it doesn't stick to the bottom or burn at all. Yeah, this is looking nearly there before we add our water. After stirring it for a little while, we're going to add our potatoes. I've put in new potatoes here, 4 little new potatoes. I find that they don't break up and they stay firm. So it's up to you which potatoes you use, but I prefer new potatoes. So give this a stir, and then we're going to add our water. To this we're going to add 3 cups of water. It'll just become over the meat, and we're going to bring it to the boil, and then we're going to simmer for 25 minutes. So that's going to be on very low, probably number 2 or 3, and we're just going to simmer for 25 minutes so the potatoes cook and the sauce cooks out as well. So here goes. At this stage we just add the water, 3 cups of water. You may need a little bit more if you want it a little bit thinner, but I find 3 cups is just right for the right thickness that I like it. Put a cup at a time and keep stirring. We're still breaking down the onions here to give a nice rich and smooth sauce, so always add boiling hot water so the process doesn't stop cooking. This is looking really good now. It's going to be a really nice curry, and you'll really enjoy this meat vindaloo. Well, there you go. That's 3 cups of water. And this is my Lamb Vindaloo. I hope you enjoy it. Please let me know how you get on with this dish, because I know you love it, because it's one of my favourites, and I normally cook it when I get guests round, and I cook it when I fancy a little bit of lamb vindaloo as well. So let me know how you get on, and there you go, lamb vindaloo. Well, bye for now, and hope to see you soon. Remember to subscribe if you haven't done so already to get notified.